Oh, Columbo.
Hello to everyone who subscribed to Melon. I'm Brunojmajor, and I've got a new album coming out. It's called Columbo. It's my third album, unbelievably. I've been working on it for about 2.5 years, and it's coming out on Friday, which is unbelievable. So this is my new album. It's called Columbo, which is the name of the car that I bought in Los Angeles. It was an old Mercedes. I was driving it around during the period that I wrote this album. I loved it very much, and I ended up crashing it, unfortunately, but it was a metaphor for my renewed freedom and autonomy after the COVID lockdown, and it reminds me of that period of time. And if you listen to the album, I think you can feel Silver Lake and Los Angeles and that car driving down the Pacific Coast Highway with the wind in my hair and loving life. So yeah, that's why I called it Columbo. We Were Never Really Friends. It's the first single, and it's about falling in love with your friend and it imploding spectacularly. You know, I feel like there are so many rom-coms, you know, like Friends with Benefits, where friends end up falling in love and then they end up getting together and living happily ever after. But in this case, the two friends did not live happily ever after, which is obviously why we were never really friends, possibly. Tell Her. So Tell Her is a letter to a friend who saw an ex of mine at a party, and he told me, he was like, oh, you know, I saw her at this party, and I remember thinking at the time, oh wow, I wish I could tell her all of these things that I never got to tell her when we were together. A Strange Kind of Beautiful is really about the isolation and the privacy of true love. I think there's something magical about the fact that when you're with somebody and you love that person, there's a version of them that only you ever get to see. Because as soon as anyone else is in the room, the dynamic changes, and there's a special version or a side of that person that only you get to see. And it reminds me of the proverb, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? So I discussed that in a kind of, the poetry discusses the secrecy of a romantic relationship, and possibly the ending of it. The show must go on. This is really about my own mental health struggles and social anxiety. I feel like there's an inner version of yourself and an outer version, and sometimes the inner version might feel a little bit insecure and a little bit insular, but outwardly you project the fact that you're happy and you're confident and charismatic, and sometimes when those two people are not matching, that's when you can feel anxious. So The Show Must Go On is really about that feeling, but through the eyes of a musician who has to go up on stage and be, you know, this kind of like a charismatic person in front of thousands of people. But hopefully it's the story is told in a way that is relatable to everybody, not just musicians. First track I'm going to pick is from Andy Schauf's album The Party, and it's called The Magician. It's the first track on the album. I could have picked any track from this album, to be honest. It was definitely something that I was listening to a lot whilst I was writing the album, driving around Los Angeles, and I just had it on in the car constantly. And there's something just so beautiful about it. It's introspective, and the production is so well put together, and there's something so calming about his voice. He reminds me a little bit of Nick Drake in that kind of, the way that he sings and projects himself is not really about showing everyone. It's just almost like he's talking to himself, and it definitely inspired me on an aesthetic sort of audio level when it came to producing my songs. So big fan of this album. The second thing I'm going to pick is Johann Sebastian Bach's Violin Partita No. 3 in E major. I love Bach. I always have. I'm a big jazz guy. You know, I was a jazz musician before I was a songwriter, and I feel like Bach was really the birth of not only all of modern harmony as we know it here in the West, but even jazz. If you take a Bach melody line like and then you swing it, it sounds like bebop, and I'm so influenced by the movement of his harmony and the bass with his melodies. And I think if you listen to Columbo, there's a lot of Bach influences on there, particularly in something like Strange Kind of Beautiful, and there's a little fugue in there on the synths at the end. So yeah, big up Bach, probably the GOAT. Okay, so the third track I've picked is Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. so many of my influences are guitar based because I'm a guitarist at heart and I was a guitar player before I was a songwriter. I picked one of my favourite Dave Gilmour solos. It's Come to Be Numb, and I just think it's so melodic the way he plays. He never plays anything frivolous. Every note has to be there, and it's so powerful, and it's not showing off. It's like part of the record. And something I've really aspired to do is being able to express myself on a guitar that isn't like a circus act or pretentious. And I think for the first time on Columbo, there are a few solos where I feel like they're cool solos in their own right, but they serve the track as well as just being like a moment of me being like, hey guys, look at this. So yeah, Dave Gilmour, the first solo I ever learned ever on electric guitar was Completely Numb. So that's why I picked that.
You know I wasn't ready, I'm too unsteady.
Alright, well that's that. Thank you so much to all my Korean fans on Melon. I am so grateful for your support, and more importantly, I am so excited to come to Seoul. The first show we put on sale sold out really quickly, so we're doing 2 nights, and I am incredibly excited. I love Korea, I love Korean food, I love the way you guys like to drink like English people, and I love how you always show up and give 100% at the shows. It's always a high energy and just really like good vibes. So see you there, can't wait.
Sweet.